Breaking in just the last 2 hours, the FDA greenlights the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. What's next in the process to get your kids vaccinated?
It's looking like we have multiple victims.
A family torn apart, a community shaken.
Sounds like more shots are still being fired. Keep a good distance.
I can't believe it. I can't believe that.
Tonight, we're getting our first look at the 6 family members murdered after a man went on a shooting rampage during a Saturday night birthday party.
It's a stark reminder of the potential lethality of domestic violence.
And the verdict is in for a truck driver accused of killing a state trooper.
It doesn't really feel like a win, but it is a relief.
Scattered rain showers across the Front Range right now, and it could turn to snow overnight in the Denver metro.
That's right. We're already seeing snow at higher elevations. Road conditions are not looking so promising. In fact, traction laws are in effect along the I-70 corridor.
Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson joins us on this Denver 7 Weather Action Day with a closer look at this storm. Mike?
A lot of wet weather out there once again. I think this is our 3rd straight Monday we've had this, and look at it outside right now. It's very green, but very, very gray as well. This is the view in Westminster, and this is what it looks like up in the mountains. There have been a few breaks in the clouds. Right at the moment, our camera is a little offline, but you can see a little blue in there. There will be more heavy snow in the mountains where winter storm warnings are in effect for tonight. So it's a mix of rain and snow. The snow level's down to about 6,000 feet. There has been snow in the Loveland, Fort Collins area over the last couple of hours. Winter storm warnings in effect for the mountains. Winter weather advisory down around the Monument Hill area. And the temperatures are chilly across the state, especially Denver and off across the Northeast Plains, where it's only in the 30s at Fort Collins and Greeley and 43 degrees here in the Denver area. So our headlines for tonight: heavy snow above 7,000 feet. At lower elevations, a mix of rain and snow expected. Another good super soaker, but it will turn warmer and drier later on in the week.
Thank you, Mike. Now we have some breaking news to tell you about. Late today, the FDA granted emergency use authorization of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for kids between the ages of 12 and 15 years old.
So the vaccine's currently authorized in the U.S. for those 16 and older. Let's get right to Denver7, CB Cotton. So when do we see these adolescents get the shot, CB?
Ann and Shannon, well, vaccinations won't begin until the CDC gives its final approval and figures out a distribution plan. The agency is scheduled to meet on Wednesday, and that's when those decisions could be made. But for now, more on the efficacy rate. Pfizer says this shot is 100% effective in 12 to 15-year-olds. That comes after a trial with just over 2,200 children where no cases of infection were found among those who had received the vaccine. But infections were found in about 18 kids who only received the placebo. Pfizer says the vaccine was generally well tolerated, but kids could experience some of the same side effects as adults: fever, chills, aches. If the CDC gives its recommendation, President Biden has said the vaccine will be quickly rolled out through its federal pharmacy program. Now, coming up on Denver 7 News at 10, we'll hear more from Coloradans and multiple perspectives on how they feel about vaccinating their children. Back to you all.
CB, thank you. There were at least 9 mass shootings across the country over the weekend, leaving 15 people dead, 30 others hurt, and one of them was right here in our own backyard. The shooting at a Colorado Springs birthday party left 7 people dead, including the gunman. This is the second mass shooting in Colorado in just a matter of weeks.
And tonight, the Colorado Springs community is shaken. And take a look. These are the victims of that senseless, that heartbreaking shooting. The youngest victim here, just 21 years old.
Denver 7's Ivan Rodriguez is joining us live. And Ivan, neighbors still cannot believe what unfolded this weekend.
And I spoke with one neighbor who lives just a couple homes down from where the shooting took place. She says one of the victims who lived in this home, she used to speak with her regularly. Now people who live in this community, as well as family members, are torn apart. Disbelief, confusion, and sadness run through the streets of Canterbury Mobile Home Park.
It's looking like we have multiple victims.
I walk by here all the time.
Sounds like more shots are still being fired. Keep a good distance.
Muy triste, la verdad.
Gladys Bustos remembers her neighbor, 53-year-old Joanna Cruz, well, and even spoke with her the morning of the birthday party.
Agradable persona, muy amable.
She says she was a very nice and courteous person and always had a smile on her face. She enjoyed her conversations with Joanna. Joanna Cruz is just one of 6 family members the suspect shot and killed before taking his own life. The youngest was 21-year-old Jose Gutierrez, 31-year-old Melvin Perez, 32-year-old Myra Perez, as well as Sandra and Jose Ibarra, who were Myra's siblings.
Fueron gritos, todo muy confuso.
Bustos says she remembers hearing people yelling, pounding noises, and people saying no, no. The Colorado Springs mayor saying the shooting appears to be a domestic violence incident.
We have to remember that 20% of the victims of homicides related to domestic violence are not the partners. They are bystanders, police officers that show up, people in the wrong place, wrong time. And that's what happened here. We had a lot of very innocent people that were killed.
Police have not released a motive for the shooting, leaving many in this community continuing to ask how something like this could happen. We also saw people from the Salvation Army walking around the neighborhood, providing counsel to those people who live here and are in need of it. We also heard from Colorado Springs Police Department that tomorrow afternoon they'll be holding a press conference to identify all the victims as well as provide updates on the case. Live in Colorado Springs, Ivan Rodriguez, Denver 7.
Such heartbreak. All right, Ivan. And across the Front Range, it was a violent weekend. We saw at least 7 shootings. 8 people were killed total, including the shooting in Colorado Springs. Another 7 were injured, including a Denver police officer who was shot responding to a call late Saturday night. The Denver police officer remains in critical condition at this hour. He was shot responding to a call Saturday night in Denver's Sunnyside neighborhood. Somebody called police saying there was an armed man standing on a front porch.
The police officer has injuries to his pelvis and leg, and we're told doctors are encouraged with the progress that he's making. Today, the suspected shooter, 40-year-old Pedro Gallegos, appeared in court for the first time. He is facing several charges, including attempted murder.
The driver who struck and killed a Colorado State trooper in 2016 was found guilty today.
Trooper Cody Donahue was investigating a crash along I-25 in Castle Rock when he was hit and killed. Noe Games Ruiz was found guilty of 1 count of careless driving, passing an emergency vehicle resulting in death, and 1 count of failure to stay in his lane. He was found not guilty of 1 count of careless driving resulting in death.
Ruiz was originally charged with negligent homicide, but there were 2 mistrials in this case, you'll recall, and after the second, the judge dismissed that felony charge.
Denver 7's Jason Grenauer joins us now with reaction to that verdict.
We spoke to Trooper Donahue's widow after that verdict was read. Guilty on 2 counts. The driver now facing up to 1 year in prison. Velma Donahue says this was not a win, nor did it bring closure.
No, I don't believe justice is served. Cody's gone forever. I don't know what the sentencing will be. How do you serve justice on somebody who's gone, who was murdered? How do you do that? So, but I am glad for the courts and having this opportunity to hopefully get the driver to take some responsibility.
This is the 3rd trial now in this case. The last 2 in September 2018 and February 2019 were both found to be mistrials after the prosecution failed to disclose information or handle witnesses properly. That maximum possible sentence of 1 year for killing a state trooper is something that has changed since the 2016 crash happened.
This case it was so outrageous and so horrible that we actually changed our law in the state of Colorado because of this case. So now if this exact same thing were to happen today, the penalties would be worse than they are for this guy right here in this particular case.
The Move Over for Cody Act was signed in 2017, but the chief of the Colorado State Patrol says people still aren't moving over and giving troopers and emergency vehicles the room they need.
So perhaps this verdict can help today, but for heaven's sakes, put down the distractions and move the hell over. There are people's lives at stake.
Games Ruiz will be back in court for sentencing on July 30th. In the newsroom, I'm Jason Grenauer, Denver 7.
And here's another reminder of just how important that move over law is. Today, a Colorado State Patrol car was hit on I-70 in the high country. And fortunately, the trooper's okay. He has minor injuries. But Colorado State Patrol took to Twitter with another plea saying this has to stop. Slow down, move over, save lives.
Some states are shifting strategy now that vaccine supply is becoming higher than demand. What Colorado is doing in response.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is Denver's changing.
A hot housing market means property values are soaring.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to have had a bigger increase than this.
Now tack on the increased property tax bill that comes with it. Some homeowners are dealing with sticker shock.